Record.
How goes the family? Welcome back to Patterson Hill Properties. Hopefully you guys are having a great, exceptional day. All right, now it's a rarity when anyone ever really hears about an entire town for sale. Remember, I remember making a video about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, about a town within a county in the state of Georgia, which I had the pleasure of seeing a couple of weeks ago. But today I'm going to talk about this article that I came across today about a military town for sale with 27 occupied homes, a cafe and a post office included in the package all at the same time. The article stated that it's because it's located within New Mexico, a town that housed military men from 1860 until it was abandoned in 1910, which makes it interesting because, Arizona didn't become a state until the 1900s. So, but it's made up and it's actually for sale. This was as of last November for $11 million. For a whole town, I don't think that's a bad deal. But hey, maybe somebody got a better deal for it. Now, when it boils down to the specifics of the town, the potential buyers would be getting an original trading post for with Fort Wingate, because that's the name of the town. Look it up, Fort Wingate, New Mexico, which spans over 7,000 square feet and includes a cafe, a post office, and even a gas station. It also comes with a massive parking lot that currently houses over 80 RVs, as well as 27 rental homes, all of which are 100% occupied. The article also stated that the cafe and gas station stopped operating once the town was listed for sale due to logistics. So there are possible opportunities for new small family businesses or franchises, people to look into if they purchase this town. And before I go on, Fort Wingate, New Mexico is next to the Highway 40, and is only about 2 hours away from the biggest city in New Mexico, known as Albuquerque, New Mexico. So, something to look into. And I found this aspect of the article to be very interesting. Article stated that it's been in the family business since 1946. That's a long time, generational wealth, right? The current owner has lived there his entire life. He has never been outside of the lines of the town, and the family now wants to spend the rest of their time traveling. And that's crazy to be, to never ever leave. But I forget, I grew up in the DMV area, which is a very international place, but I forget that there are so many people that have never left their hometown and they never left their state. I'll never forget watching a documentary back during the time of the unfortunate incident that happened to Hurricane Katrina, and there was so many documentaries that was created regarding that horrible event that took place back in 2005. But I remember one gentleman in this documentary said, "I've never been out of this." Him and his wife drove from Louisiana to Tennessee because she had family. I believe it was in Memphis, Tennessee, and I remember the gentleman said, "I've never been out of the state of Louisiana." It was just crazy. This guy's 28, 29, 30 years old, and he's like, he's never been out of the state of Louisiana. But I have a lot of friends that, grew up in Texas. They've never been out of Texas. Or if they have, it's only been the state next door to them and whatnot. So it amazes me. So moral of the story is, do your best to get away from your hometown and your state every now and then. It's good for you. It's healthy. Even leaving the U.S. and whatnot, it's very healthy for you. Not saying I'm bad about the U.S. I'm just saying it's very healthy to get some world perspective and national perspective and international perspective. Heck, our biggest corporations have been doing that for decades now, or since the inception of the United States of America, to be honest with you. So, but I digress. Let's get back on track, all right? Because like I said, I just found it to be interesting. And I can understand that, as far as the wanting to travel, because nothing, lasts forever, and eventually one has to move on in their life. And that's what the owner of this Fort Wingate, New Mexico wants to do. The article also stated that with all the current rentals and commercial operations in the town, the owner has been managing the town for decades. He is the fire chief, the police, and landlord. Man, I love it. This really reminds me of that show on Netflix, Schitt's Creek. Yeah, that's a great show. Check it out. It was a rich family that bought a small town as a joke, and then the FBI seized their assets because the family's business partner did some shady dealings. So they basically had, that all their assets were frozen and liquidated and sold off. And the only thing that they didn't, that they could keep was the town. And they all had to move into this town that the father owned, and they had to live in a rinky-dink hotel and whatnot. So That's what this story reminds me of the show Schitt's Creek, and that's why I wanted to talk about this today. But anyways, like I said, it's interesting that the fact that people can actually buy a whole town. I mean, that's the thing. You know what I mean? That's money right there. But I digress. You know, and that's what makes America a beautiful country. Everything's for sale. But anyways, so the article also stated that with all the current rentals, commercial operations in the town, the owner has been managing the town for decades. We already said that. Now that is definitely being, you know, because one thing I can say about the owner of the town, he's a jack of all trades, you know, fire chief, police chief, landlord. I mean, you know, population is real smart. And it just reminds you of those one-horse towns that most of America used to look like, outside of only a handful of major cities. So that's just how it was back in the day. But it is what it is. So, and obviously, you know, the article stated that there's a post office, which is located inside the cafe, which I think is pretty funny, but that's how things used to be back in the day, which is still functioning. And there's a school is only about 250 feet from the town. Across the street is an abandoned military base, which was also used to store explosives from World War I and World War II. The town, which spans a colossal 18 acres, later built the rental units a decade later. In 1956, after the current family took over, heck, if I had the means, I wouldn't mind owning a small town like this, because the opportunities are endless, especially the tax breaks. And if you want to have a quiet place to get away from and just, you know, do your own thing, to me, that's just the icing on the cake. The article ended on this note, stating that the owners hearing about Buffalo soldiers and the Navajo cold talkers that grace this land where the town is at is what made the town very, very significant. And that's the thing that is American military history that's not talked about enough. Buffalo soldiers, especially African-American Buffalo soldiers who were helping fight the wars basically against certain Native American tribes, so that they can, you know, basically solidify that part of the country and whatnot, because, you know, the West Coast was owned by, well, you know, obviously you had the Native Americans, and then, you know, the first country to actually, quote unquote, own the West Coast of America was Mexico. So, you know, you had the Mexican-American War all at the same time. Then you had the Native American War with the United States of America. So it's very interesting. I even have a friend of mine who does the Buffalo Soldiers reenactments and whatnot in Maryland, so in the Washington, D.C. area. So pretty cool history. You know, I have my moments when I'm a dork when it comes to history. But anyways, being in the center of Wingate, surrounded by Navajo, Zuni, BLM, which is the Bureau of Land Management, which is a federal agency, BIE, National Forest, and the Old Fort, which are all within the walking distance, is what makes this property so unique. And bear in mind, family, two states that are heavily owned by the federal government, in the United States of America, is the state of Nevada and state of New Mexico, from the national parks to the Land Bureau management. And then, of course, you have, Department of Defense and Department of Energy. A lot of these agencies own a lot of the land, what they do out there. But it's just very interesting to get that perspective, you know, because a lot of parts of those states are not as inhabited. I think won't be just because of the lack of water resources and whatnot. So, you know, I mean, when you think of those specifically those states, you only really think of the major cities, because I know that New Mexico is, like, when it comes to economics, is one of the poorest states in the country, on the lines of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama when it comes to poverty rates and things of that nature. But that's the one thing, is like, usually if a place is really, really cheap to live in, there's a reason for it. And if a place is really, really expensive to live in, there's a reason for it. I'll just leave it at that. But anyways, I digress. Right now, some film studios have already approached the owners about turning the place into a movie set, which would be very smart, while maintaining the RVs and residential units. If the new owner, which is very smart, because a lot of studios, especially in California, they've been vacating Los Angeles or just the whole state just because of the taxes and whatnot. And they've been going to places like North Carolina and Georgia. And I could see them in doing more filming in Wild West, you know, filming in places like New Mexico, places like Nevada, places like Arizona. So if a film studio could actually just own a place like that for dirt cheap, why not, right? But I digress. But anyways, The article stated that if the new owner decides that they don't want residents or occupants any longer, they have the choice to do so. But ideally, the current owners are looking for someone who would want to take over the business and rentals. And on that note, I wish the current and new owners of this town nothing but luck, because I know that it's never easy trying to sell something that, because obviously you can tell the owners, it's been in their family for generations and they want, but obviously the families are like, hey, we've had our time. It's time for us to move on. Like I said, nothing lasts forever, but the families wanted to go to somebody that's actually going to try to keep the, sincerity and the viability and the historical aspects of the town and the community. So I get that. I respect that. I think that's pretty cool. But, whoever buys it, you own it, you control it. So it is what it is. So do the great thing, free things, like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day. Don't forget Patterson Hill Properties. We wholesale real estate, most of the times via tax liens and tax sales. Contact us, information is in the descriptions. If you're a stock market investor, crypto investor, individual retirement account investor, don't forget to sign up with WEBULL, Stash, Crypto.com, Coinbase, all that great stuff, Acorns, and you have opportunity to get up to free stock, free money, all that good stuff. And on that note, family, make money moves, or you're going to live broke like a fool. Hopefully you guys have a great evening.